here's the thing. If you want financial freedom, you need to go against the grain. If you could become financially free doing what everybody else does, then everybody else would be financially free as well. Hey everyone, it's your girl Rose. Welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a while since I posted, and truth is, I'm in a huge transition phase of my life right now, and I just needed to take a little break from YouTube to figure out my life. Mainly figuring out where the heck do I want to live. If you have been following me on Instagram at all, you know that I recently bought a camper van, and you may also know that I've been in Mexico City the last few months. And a lot of you messaged me wondering why I was getting a camper van, whether I was planning to live in the van full time, and what I was doing in Mexico City. So back in April of 2021, I pulled the trigger on this 2021 white Ram Promaster, and I started working on the design with a builder. Once the van is done, I will definitely share more in future videos about how much the van cost, the build out, plus a full van tour, so stay tuned for that. But right now in this video, I want to talk about why I bought a camper van, why I moved to Mexico, and the financial reasoning behind some of these decisions. So cozy up with a cup of coffee, a glass of wine, or whatever you like to drink, and let's do some catching up. Okay, so first off, you might be thinking, Mexico, camper van, like all that seems so random, and I know it does seem random, but it's really not. I base most of my major life decisions around two things: travel and financial freedom. And so the decision to live in Mexico and to buy a camper van are 100% aligned with that. And I'll explain. To give you the backstory, van life has been a long time dream of mine for years. Every time I heard about somebody traveling all over the country, living out of a van, I always felt these pangs of envy. And it just seemed like such a life of freedom and adventure, which are two major values in my life. You know how there's always that one crazy thing that you dream about doing one day? Like taking a year off to travel, writing a novel, or hiking the Himalayas, and you just daydream about it all the time, but you never actually go for it? For me, that thing was van life. And so last year, as I was going through my divorce and just thinking about how I wanted to reinvent my life, I was like, you know what? This is my time, now or never. So initially, when I started building the van in April, I was ready to start doing full-time van life like yesterday. But then when I realized that it was gonna take a lot longer than expected to finish the van, like months and months, I really wasn't trying to wait around in my little Denver studio apartment, especially after being on lockdown for so long because of COVID. So I decided to go check out Mexico City in the meantime. One of my closest girlfriends had moved there from the US, so the fact that she chose to live in Mexico City was a pretty strong signal to me that this city was worth visiting. So when I got there, I totally fell in love with Mexico City, and I started having second thoughts about full-time van life. Now, I love living on the road and I can totally rough it out and do long-term travel and whatnot, but I've done it before and it just gets really exhausting to always have to be planning, where do I get gas next? Where can I fill up my water? When can I shower again? When can I do laundry? Is there enough solar power for my electric things? There's a lot of things to always constantly be thinking about. I have big plans for this YouTube channel in 2022, and I realized I personally wouldn't be at my best if I had to constantly be worrying about these routine necessities while living on the road. Which is why I decided to buy a place in Mexico City and make a home here instead. This is a big deal for me because I never thought I'd be buying a home anytime soon. I just have real issues with the way homeownership is typically done in the US. That is, buying this huge home that you can't afford and signing your life away to this massive 30-year mortgage. Like, no thank you, right? Because from what I can see, a lot of people who own homes, at least in the US, are paying a lot of money for space that they literally never use. Like dining rooms, extra bedrooms, they've got these huge houses in the suburbs, and they're constantly fixing things and putting more money into the house. I'm sure in some cases it's smarter to buy versus rent, but a lot of people don't actually do the kind of like number crunching to really see what financial trade-offs they're making. It's a pretty conventional way of thinking to think that buying a home is a smart financial decision no matter what. And this simply isn't true. Investing money elsewhere, like in stocks or in crypto, could net you a higher return with a lot less headache, especially after you factor in all the hidden costs of home ownership, like repairs, property tax increases, all of that. Sometimes you're not necessarily always getting ahead. Here's the thing. If you want financial freedom, you need to go against the grain. If you could become financially free doing what everybody else does, then everybody else would be financially free as well. Clearly, following the default path that society lays out for you and following conventional wisdom isn't the way if you don't want to work all your life to just pay the bills and then die, which is what most people end up doing. If you want to achieve financial freedom while you're still young, there are 3 main bits of conventional wisdom that I consider to be pretty shitty advice. 1, getting into massive debt for college. 2, working hard for a paycheck all your life. And 3, the American dream of home ownership. I did number 1, and all I got as a thank you for following society's conventional advice was a $100,000 student loan that took me 10 years to pay off. As for number 2, I followed that advice for a while as well, thinking that getting a well-paying job was the pinnacle of financial success. But then I learned that paycheck income is not only the most highly taxed kind of income, which I talk more about in this video right here, but paycheck income also allows you the least amount of freedom and leverage for your time. Yet, it's the only type of income that we're taught to go after in school. Again, check out this video for more perspective on this. So after getting burned following this bad conventional advice for most of my life, I'm gonna think very carefully before just blindly following the 3rd piece of advice. According to the Fed, the median price of a home has increased much faster than the median wage in the US. This means that home ownership is a much bigger financial burden than it used to be. Maybe the American dream of home ownership was a beautiful idea back in 1985, but now with the average price of a home running you around $405,000, it seems more like the American nightmare. In Mexico City, however, you're looking at around $150,000 to $200,000 for a condo in some of the trendiest neighborhoods. And you're looking at even cheaper than that in some of the less trendy neighborhoods. Although that might be a lot for a Mexican local, it's much cheaper than in the US, right? This means that you could potentially buy a home with minimal debt or even just pay for the whole thing in cash without compromising on the size, quality, or location of home that you want. There are lots of countries and cities where this is possible if you're willing to think outside the box. Also, Mexico City is just one of those world-class cities like Paris, New York, Madrid, where real estate is basically guaranteed to appreciate long-term. Okay, but I haven't gotten to the most important point, which is the reason why I am excited about buying property in Mexico is that I think it's gonna make a great Airbnb rental. At this point, my primary motivation for investing in anything is cash flow. I am not interested in parking a bunch of money into something, waiting and hoping for it to go up one day so that I can sell it and hopefully make a profit. No, I want my investments to generate cash flow that I can use right now. So since I love to travel and will likely not be at home for big stretches of time throughout the year, I realized I could make cash flow by turning the property into an Airbnb when I'm not there, which is often for months at a time. Especially in this post-COVID world where so many businesses are allowing their employees to work remotely, international borders are becoming quite blurred. And when people can live and work from anywhere in the world, they want to go where the quality of life is amazing. Places like Mexico City. Good weather, nice people, good tacos. I mean, what more could you ask for? So I think there's always going to be good demand for Airbnbs here, and I'm really excited. I'm still researching the whole process of buying property in Mexico, and I've also started looking at some places. So if you'd be interested in videos about the process of buying a home in Mexico as a foreigner, type Mexico in the comments to let me know. All right, and now what about the campervan? As I mentioned before, after falling in love with Mexico City, I no longer think full-time van life is for me. I still want to use it as a part-time adventure vehicle so I can still, have my dreams of van life. But after thinking really hard about it, I've decided to keep it and turn it into another income stream. Turns out renting campervans is a thing. There is this website called outdoorsy.com, which is basically Airbnb for RVs and campervans. And turns out you can rent vans out for $200 to $400 per night. To me, these numbers are a no-brainer. A van rents out for as much money per night as a hotel room, yet building a van costs a fraction of what it takes to build a hotel. I thought the opportunity was too good to pass up. Whenever making an investment, you always want to ask these two things. One, what is my ROI or return on investment? And two, when will I get my money back? ROI is the annual cash flow divided by the amount of money that you personally invested to generate that cash flow. For example, let's say I can rent out my van for only a third of the year, or roughly 120 days, for a conservative $200 a night. That's $24,000 a year, or an ROI of 24% a year, assuming it costs $100,000 to have the van. Whether you're investing in a stock, a piece of real estate, or a campervan, you also want to know how long it'll take to get your money back. In other words, when can you make back what you put into the investment, but still continue to own the investment? So with stocks, receiving dividends and selling options on my stock holdings is one way I get my money back, or I get my initial investment into the stock back, but still get to keep the stock. Once you get all your money back, any returns you make on that investment from that point on is considered infinite returns because you've completely de-risked yourself and have none of your own skin in the game. That is the ultimate in investing. And so the time it'll take to get your money back is a very important question to ask whenever assessing any potential investment. So with the campervan, assuming rental income of $24,000 a year, it would take about 4 years to get back the $100,000 that I put into it. But since these are very conservative estimates, I'm thinking it'll be a lot faster than that. Now, that does not mean I won't be traveling in the van myself. The van will be finished in December. Here's what it looks like right now. And I plan to drive it around California for a few months and eventually drive it down to Mexico. My plans are quite fluid right now, so I'll be sure to keep you posted. Anyway, I wanted to just share the reasoning behind some of my recent major life decisions in the hopes that it'll give you perspective as you navigate your own financial journey as well. I feel like people don't really share much about how they make these big financial decisions, so I just wanted to change the narrative and be really open about what I'm doing and why. Travel and financial freedom have always been top priorities in my life, so I'm really excited because I think doing the campervan and the Mexico Airbnb are moves in the right direction. Keep in mind that what makes financial sense for you will look very different from what makes financial sense for me. It's all about what you value and aligning your financial decisions with your values. Don't be afraid to ignore traditional advice that has been spoon-fed to you by society, and just do you. My parents were pressuring me to buy a place in the US for so long, but after really thinking it through and thinking through my lifestyle, my priorities, I realized it just didn't make sense for me. So that's pretty much it for my life update. I am back to posting regular weekly videos on Wednesdays, and man, it feels good to be back. I really missed you guys. Give this video a like if you got value from it, and for those of you who've been watching my videos for a while, thank you. I appreciate you, and I'm really excited to keep sharing my journey with you. The world is changing, and a lot of things that made financial sense in the past no longer make sense in the future. Whether it's about early retirement, side hustles, career, housing, cryptocurrency, and the future of investing in these rapidly evolving times, I'll be navigating all these issues with you, right alongside you. So be sure to hit that subscribe button and come along for the ride. I'll be back Wednesday with more awesome content on how to seriously up-level your financial literacy and live life on your terms. So I'll see you next week, same time, same place. Bye!